It's You Had to Ask, the show where I answer your questions. And this week, my first question comes from Mitch Searches, who says, Batman v Superman comes out today. I'm sure you'll be talking about it, lamenting its existence soon enough, so I won't ask about that specifically. However, the movie does prompt me to ask you a couple of Bat questions. My first question relates to the Arkham video game series. Given how much you enjoy Batman, I'm a bit surprised that they don't seem to have sparked your interest. Do you have any particular qualms with these games? Uninteresting plots, for example? Or is it just that no video game, even a Batman one, can hold your interest? And second, given creative power and a reasonable budget, what would a Batman movie look like under your control? The storyline, maybe the casting decisions? Well, as to the video game question, I think it's just a matter of me not being into video games. There are people that I'm friends with who are both Batman fans and gamers who speak very, very highly of the Batman Arkham games, but I don't own a video game console. I don't own a PlayStation or an Xbox or anything like that, and just wanting to play those Batman games doesn't seem to me to be enough of a motivation to invest, hundreds of dollars in video game equipment to be able to play these games. It's just not something that I'm that interested in. So I've never played them, and I've never been like that. I've never yearned to play them that much. As for what my Batman movie would look like, if I had the right and the budget to do something like that, it would probably be on a much smaller scale than the Batman movies or superhero movies in general typically have been lately. It would be a very Gotham City-based story. It would probably have sort of emotional stakes or psychological stakes for Batman, but it would not be a Batman saves the city type of thing. It would probably be closer to The Dark Knight than to either Batman Begins or The Dark Knight Rises, and certainly much closer to that than Batman v Superman. But even smaller than that, I would like to do a story about Batman investigating a crime or chasing a villain, where the stakes were just Batman catching the bad guy or Batman solving the mystery, not Batman saving millions of lives, because I just don't think that sort of story suits the character the way I see it. I'm much more interested in what's going on in Batman's head and in the ramifications of him being Batman, both for himself and for the city that he operates in, than in telling a story with great big stakes where like it's the fate of the city hangs in the balance. I'm just not really that interested in those sorts of stories. And it would have to be a story where the villain would reflect some aspect of Batman, or would allow me as the storyteller to explore some particular aspect, some characteristic of Batman, either mentally or with the ramifications of what he does, his activities. It couldn't just be here's a random member of the Rogues Gallery and here's Batman chasing him down and catching him and let's try to come up with a clever, exciting story. That'd be okay for a TV episode. But if you're going to do a Batman movie, I feel like you should go a little deeper and you should tell a story that is actually about that main character and have a villain that allows you to not only tell an exciting Batman story, but also to explore what that character is and really dig deep into him and figure out something about him and have him make meaningful choices and have him undergo some kind of a journey, give him sort of a character arc. Chrisiosity. Like many Catholics born to immigrants, my husband has very little interest in the dogmas of his faith, but considers the cultural and family solidarity of the rituals important. Though I find many aspects of Catholicism, disturbing, to be honest, we have found workable compromises on this. In truth, seeing the Catholic experience through the eyes of a large family brought together through the years with baptisms, confirmations, weddings, holidays, and funerals has me appreciating both the cleverness of the old patriarchs and the value of rituals and traditions. Do you see some sort of secularist rituals taking over as we become a less religious world? And just how do you celebrate Darwin Day? Most importantly, will there be candy? I don't know if we'll necessarily see new secular rituals replacing religious ones. I think it'll probably be more along the lines of what you describe your husband as experiencing relative to his Catholicism, where what were once considered sacred religious ceremonies or rituals will just become more secularized. So people will do mostly the same things. They'll undergo the same rites. They'll honor the same traditions. But it'll be sort of like the way many of us celebrate Christmas now. You know, I'm an atheist. I don't celebrate a sacred religious Christmas at all. But I don't celebrate a separate thing. I don't have my own, non-religious, non-believer holiday that I celebrate. I celebrate Christmas. But for me, Christmas is a secular thing. To me, Christmas is about decorating the tree and exchanging gifts and Santa Claus and Christmas carols and family dinner. And the religious aspects of it just don't matter to me at all, or just aren't things that I observe or that I pay very close attention to. And I think it'll probably be something like that as society grows more secular and religion, pious religion, really strong observation of religion, religious belief starts to sort of continues to fade away. We'll keep the rituals and we'll keep the culture of the churches and the traditions of the churches, but we just won't be believers anymore. They will be just part of our lives and part of our traditions. I think something like that is probably what's going to happen. I think that's what tends to happen. I think if you look at, the way religion is handled in Europe in terms of Christianity, or even in parts of the Muslim world, where people are culturally Muslim or in other parts of the world culturally Jewish, but they aren't very strong believers in the actual claims of the religion. I think that sort of thing is what we're going to see, not necessarily new secular traditions invented to replace the religious ones. Becca Hawkins. Hi, Steve. I'm so disturbed by the hate and just complete lack of empathy of many in this country. The rhetoric of Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, their followers, etc. is really depressing. I remember reading a post by Southern Baptist preacher Russell Moore, who has been concerned about evangelicals supporting Trump. The thing is, Moore's anti-gay and anti-trans rhetoric shows that he's not much better. It got me thinking about the GOP freaking out about Trump, and I wonder, do you think that, in a way, the GOP has paved the way for Trump's rise? Like, do you think it's fair to say that GOP rhetoric, even rhetoric of many anti-Trump GOP persons, has unwittingly contributed to Trump's popularity? It seems that way to me. Well, it seems that way to me too, Becca. I think you're absolutely right. I've actually said this from day one. As soon as Trump declared his candidacy and rocketed to the top of the polls among Republican voters or likely voters, that this was the bed that the Republican Party has made for itself. For the last 40 years, the Republican Party has pandered to a base, has attracted a base of voters based on religious fundamentalism, particularly Christian fundamentalism, anti-gay rhetoric, anti-woman rhetoric, disguised white supremacist rhetoric, not overt white supremacist rhetoric, but dog whistle stuff, and shaming and vilifying the poor, and shaming and vilifying immigrants and promoting xenophobia. That is what the modern Republican Party is founded on. That is how the modern Republican voter base was attracted and cultivated and maintained, by appealing to those things. And those are all things that Donald Trump embodies. But the thing is, he embodies them in a very coarse way, in a way that is indefensible. That even Republicans like Ted Cruz, who really, if you look at just where they stand on the issues, Ted Cruz, you're right, doesn't disagree with Donald Trump on all that much. He quibbles with Donald Trump because of Trump's personality, because of Trump's tone, because of the obnoxiousness and the coarseness of Trump's presentation. But in terms of Trump's actual policies and proposals and things he would try to do as president, they're not that far apart. Because in terms of his platform, Trump is the dream Republican candidate. He's a hateful, ignorant, a proudly ignorant, rich white guy who appeals to poor white people because he allows them to believe that there are other people who are worse off than they are and deserve to be. That even if you are a white person and you're poor or you're struggling or you cannot have the things in your life that you think you should have or that you want, you can always blame it on the black folks, you can always blame it on women, you can always blame it on immigrants, you can always blame it on LGBT folk. There's always someone lower than you who can take the blame and who you can heap all of your excuses and all of your sins upon. That is why Trump appeals to that segment of voters. And those are the voters that the Republican Party has been calling to its shores for years. So yes, absolutely, the rhetoric of Republicans, past and present, is responsible, and the Republican Party itself is responsible for the rise of Donald Trump. The people that support him, the people that are willing to vote for him, did not just appear when Trump declared his candidacy. They have been the base of the Republican Party for generations now. And as I say, it is the bed that the Republican Party has made. The Republican Party leaders and the more mainstream candidates or former candidates like Mitt Romney, who are just wringing their hands and going, oh, I can't believe we have to do something about Trump. I have no sympathy for them whatsoever, because Trump is the monster that they created. Captain Michael, on the shit show you say Batman v Superman is, do you think part of the problem is that filmmakers want to tell different stories but have to use the same stock of characters? To explore the question of, can a god be good? You don't want Superman because it's his thing to be good. A different character might be better to explore that question, but it probably wouldn't sell. I guess my question is BVS and other character-breaking movies a case of right story, wrong character? I had a thought like this after I saw Batman v Superman, and it wasn't related to the Superman half of it, but more the Batman half. I thought, if Zack Snyder wants to make a Punisher movie, he should just call up Marvel Studios and say that he wants to make a Punisher movie. He shouldn't be trying to make a Punisher movie with Batman, because Batman isn't the Punisher. But then I thought, his Punisher movie would probably be just as terrible. The problem with Zack Snyder's movies, particularly his superhero movies, is not that he's trying to force the wrong characters to tell the wrong story. It's that he has a very juvenile, adolescent attitude toward violence, where he just thinks that violence is awesome. He thinks that violence is awesome and cool, and he thinks it's cool to see Batman shooting people and to see Batman killing people and blowing shit up. He thinks it's cool to see Superman punching his foes through buildings and knocking down skyscrapers. There's just a really adolescent part of his brain that he just gets off on that. He just thinks it's awesome. And whether he tells that story with characters that are better suited to that kind of material than Batman and Superman or not, doesn't matter. Because he's not interested in story and he's not interested in character. He's interested in carnage. So I don't think that would make that much of a difference. I also think that a thoughtful enough filmmaker, a smart enough filmmaker that actually had a story to tell, that was willing to grapple with those issues, could absolutely make a story about Superman that wrestled with the question of, can a god be good? I think you can absolutely tell that story with Superman without betraying the character and without making it just tedious and loud and obnoxious and pointless and depressing. I think you just need to be good. You need to have a story, and you need to have a point to make, other than, ooh, look at how hard Superman can punch. Ooh, look at how they knocked the building down. Look at all the destruction. The problem with the movie is that Zack Snyder made an orgy of violence, not a story. And it doesn't really matter what story he wanted to tell, or what story we think he wanted to tell, or what story we imagine he was trying to tell. That's irrelevant. The Nightmare Rider. Hi, Steve. A bit of a lighter question for you this time. Are you a fan of the DC animated universe? I've recently been making my way through Batman Beyond, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited, all of which give me a new appreciation for DC heroes, since I grew up more on Marvel heroes, in stark contrast to the terrible DC live-action films of late, as well as a good reason why I am passionate about animation in general. Do you think that these animated series are good representations of the characters? And in addition, do you think that the limitations of a children's show, as well as the medium of animation, actually gives creators more room for interesting story and characters, since they have to work around what is deemed suitable for children to watch, in terms of strong language, violence, etc.? To answer the last part first, I do think that most of the DC animated stuff being aimed at kids, or at least at a teenage level sort of audience, does help to tone down the violence. You would never see a DC animated feature that glorified violence and destruction as much as Zack Snyder's Superman films have so far. You would never see like that pornographic presentation of destruction and violence that you see in the live action films. So that's good. But unfortunately, my experience has also been that because they are aimed at a young audience, the storytelling is not terribly sophisticated. And I know that people will argue with me on that. I know that there are a lot of people who just love the DC animated stuff, particularly Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and the Justice League shows, and Batman Beyond as well has a lot of love too. There are people who just adore those series and love those versions of those characters. And I don't hate them. I don't have anything wrong with them. I can watch episodes of those shows and enjoy them and find something to like about them. But ultimately, they're not my favorite versions of the characters. And I think part of it is that they're aimed at a young audience. They are kids shows essentially, and the storytelling and the characterizations just aren't that deep and just aren't that sophisticated, and the writing just isn't that good. The animation, for the most part, is good. I mean, the character designs are fantastic. All of those DCU animated series have really fantastic character designs. And the status quos of the series, like the sort of basic concepts, like the Batman the Animated Series version of Batman and the sort of world that they put him in, is really solid. Is excellent. In fact, is a really solid version of Batman. You know, the Justice League Unlimited, the premise of that show and the way they construct the team and the way they can move back and forth between different characters and bring different characters in for different stories. That's a really solid base for a superhero show. I have nothing against the DC animated stuff. I think some of it is good, and I think some of the basic concepts of it are strong, but it's never been something that has really appealed to me as a grown-up. I mean, as a 12-year-old watching Batman the Animated Series, I thought it was the best thing ever. You know, as a 35-year-old, almost 36-year-old, I can think of a lot of Batman stories that I prefer far more than even the best, animated Batman episode. Corey Donaldson, what do you think of urban explorers, like people who explore old buildings or climb up to the top of very high buildings or structures? I envy those people. That sounds like the coolest thing in the world. I used to love exploring abandoned houses. There were a couple of abandoned houses within a reasonable driving distance of where I lived when I was a kid. And there was one particular old abandoned house that was, maybe like a 5-minute drive from my house. I used to love to go there and just walk around in that old abandoned house. So I definitely relate to the urban explorer mentality. And I would love to do that kind of thing. I just don't think I have the guts to do it. I'd be too afraid to get caught. I'd be too afraid that I would be caught trespassing or run out of the place or something. But yeah, I really relate to that, impulse to want to go do that. I think that kind of thing is awesome. I used to go to that old abandoned house and just walk around in there. It was just awesome. I just loved it. So I definitely relate to the urban explorers, but I don't know if I'll ever be one myself. I think I've gotten too timid in my old age. So timid, in fact, that if that thunderclap actually happened and wasn't just something that I added in post, I surely would jump and be startled every single time. But as it is, it's not really there. And if I don't mention it, you might think that it is really there, and you might think that I'm just that cool. I can hear the thunder go off, and it doesn't even rattle me at all, because that's just how stone cold I am. That's not what it means, actually. All it does mean is that this segment of the video is over, and it's now time for
the lightning round. Rapid fire questions, glib and adequate answers.
Jeff Killer Heisenberg. Who would win a smug-off, David Silverman or Sam Harris? Oh, Sam Harris. Sam Harris is going to walk away with that. Now, David Silverman versus most other people, he would have very little to worry about. But Sam Harris is going to win that every single fucking time. Secular Scholar. Is this question impossible to answer? No. Although, I could be wrong about that. Old Comic 1. What happened to the pen? Hey, it's okay. The pen's right here. See? The pen's right here. It doesn't leave my collar. It's right there. You just can't see it as well sometimes when I wear an overshirt. The collar on the overshirt kind of hides it. But don't worry, the pen's still there. I'm not gonna risk alienating my audience by renaming 5 stupid things and getting rid of the pen. I mean, Christ. People will be like, what am I watching here? I'm not gonna do that. The pen's still there. Hexerci, here are a few questions. Since you produce quite a few videos, what software do you use for editing? What are the specs of your editing PC? It's just a normal PC. I don't even know what the specs are because I'm not really a computer guy. It's just a nice computer that I bought a couple years ago. And the software I use, for the most part, I use AVS Video Editor. I also use Adobe Premiere Elements for some stuff. And perhaps you might want to tell us a bit about the whole process, like how did you learn about video editing? Do you enjoy it? Do you use some kind of templates to speed up the process? Or does someone else do the editing for you? Would you consider having a dedicated video editor if that allowed you to produce more content? Lightning round it if you can. Challenge accepted? Well, obviously challenge accepted. Hexerci. I learned it just by trial and error. I learned by doing, and I figured out most of what I need to do. I do certainly have my limitations, but I get by. If I could afford to pay someone to edit it for me, especially someone who was much more nimble and fluent in like a better editing program, someone who really knew like After Effects or something, who could do like really cool transitions or just get a much more professional, slick presentation, and I could afford to pay them for their time so they could do it, I would definitely hire someone to do my editing for me. At least with the scripted videos, where I could count on them just following a script and just banging out videos one after the other after the other. There's certain types of videos like this where it's just me speaking extemporaneously that I would want to edit myself because I get to decide what needs to come out and what stays. It would be difficult to tell someone else doing the editing for that to do that. But yeah, I would definitely if I could afford it, hire someone to do the editing for me. Aaron Reynolds, Steve, when contributing through Patreon, how is the transaction worded when charged to a bank account? I think it's just listed as patreon.com. That's all it ever is for me. The Insane Pumpkin Carver, Ted Cruz, Pat Robertson, and Glenn Beck. You have to fuck one, kill one, and marry one. Okay, well, I'm going to kill Ted Cruz. No way I'm fucking Ted Cruz. I'm going to fuck Glenn Beck because honestly, it's the least of the three evils there. And I'm going to marry Pat Robertson because that's not going to be a very long marriage. Pat's not going to be around too much longer. So there you go. I already did that one. Kevin Logan, Steve. What? I'm sorry I didn't answer your baseball question last time, Kevin, okay? I'm not ignoring you. I just didn't answer it. I'm right here. Okay? Just relax. Okay? Steve's right here. Steve's not going anywhere. Doug Putoff, your opinion on Frank Miller's original Dark Knight? Oh, The Dark Knight Returns? I think it's brilliant. I love Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. It's one of my favorite Batman comics. I think it's one of the best superhero comics ever produced. And way more romantic than it often gets credit for. It usually gets described as being really dark and grim, which it is, but it's also really romantic. I mean, romantic in the literary sense, I mean, there's scenes of Batman riding horses. I mean, come on. Yeah, but Dark Knight Returns is a brilliant comic. Joseph Opiano, hey Steve, so did you actually think Batman v Superman was worse than Schumacher's Batman films? I found your Dear Joel Schumacher post funny either way. Yeah, I tweeted and posted on Facebook that, Dear Joel Schumacher, I'm sorry for every mean thing I ever said to you. Please forgive me. And yes, I think Batman v Superman is worse than Joel Schumacher's Batman films. Because Joel Schumacher's Batman films, as bad as they are at least fun. And are at least, they're things I can watch and enjoy in the same way that I enjoy a movie like The Room. I acknowledge that they're terrible, they're terribly written, they're terribly produced and shot and directed. They're just bad movies. But I can watch them and make fun of them and enjoy them as camp, enjoy them as kitsch, and have a good time. And I just can't do that with Batman v Superman. Batman v Superman is just grim, depressing, upsetting, offensive garbage. And I can't say that about the Joel Schumacher films. And oh, how innocent I was so many years ago to think that when I watched Batman and Robin, to think, oh, it can't get any worse than this. Oh, Steve from 1997. The things you think you know, but don't. Hey, that's it for the lightning round. That's it for the questions. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to a very deserving YouTube channel. And this week, the shout out goes to Blissful Melancholy. Blissful Melancholy is the YouTube channel of a wonderful YouTuber. She is an atheist and a feminist, and of note, she is a feminist who critiques other feminists. I have often said in response to the question, are there any parts of feminism you disagree with, or are there any critics of feminism that you do respect? I have often said in response to that, the best critics of feminism and the best critics of feminists are other feminists. You don't go to racists for constructive critiques of the civil rights movement. And you don't go to anti-feminists and sexists and misogynists for rational, constructive, useful critiques of feminism. You go to feminists who understand feminism, who understand the concepts, who understand the principles, who understand the movement, and have identified what they view as problems or shortcomings or areas that need to be improved. And Blissful Melancholy, in addition to all the other stuff she does, because I want you to check out her whole channel. She's just got an awesome channel, and she has a wonderful on-camera presence, and she just is a terrific voice in our community, and I really hope that you go and listen to her. But one of the things she does is critique other feminists in a sane, calm, rational, constructive way, and it is fantastic. Even if you don't agree with her critique, it is a very important contribution to the conversation here on YouTube that unfortunately has become so dominated, in terms of feminist discussion, has become dominated by angry, ignorant dipshits who neither know nor wish to know anything about feminism, or social justice issues in general. So Blissful Melancholy is definitely not one of those. She is someone who is just, it's still a relatively small, young channel. I think she just got her first 1,000 subscribers, so let's add to that, shall we? Go check out Blissful Melancholy's channel, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, because I personally think that it's fantastic, and I highly recommend it to you. I also highly recommend to you the Lemme podcasts. These are some of my favorite things in the whole world. They are created by my pal Jason Harding, who also does Opinionville here on YouTube. And there are 3 Lemme podcasts. There is Lemme Finish, which is co-hosted by Finite Atticus, and he and Jason are just hilarious on that show. There is American Monsters and How to Destroy Them, which you can listen to the entire first season of right now, and it is, again, just absolutely a hilarious improv comedy podcast with supernatural overtones, and it's just, I can't recommend it highly enough. And then there is also Late Seating, which is the movie review podcast that Jason does with me. I am Jason's co-host on Late Seating, and we review old movies, movies of note, movies that have a reputation of either being great or terrible. We give them a fresh look, we summarize the plot and make fun of it for your entertainment, and then we decide whether we think this movie deserves its reputation, whatever that reputation may be, good or bad. We've reviewed tons of movies so far. You can listen to all of those episodes at the Lemme podcast website. Our most recent episode going up this week that you can probably download and hear right after you get done watching this video is a review of that classic film, well, notorious film, let's say, Howard the Duck, which is actually the first Marvel movie, or at least the first post-World War II Marvel movie. It's definitely a Howard the Duck review that we did, and you can listen to it, and all of the other Lemme podcasts, all the other episodes of Late Seating, all the episodes of American Monsters, all the episodes of Lemme Finish. If you go to LemmeListenPodcasts.com, and I highly recommend that you do. The Lemme podcasts are awesome, and of course I have a special soft spot for Late Seating, because it's just a joy to do, and I'm glad that so many of you have discovered it and like it, and I hope some more of you discover it and also like it. So there you go, LemmeListenPodcast.com. That's it for me, everybody. I'm out of here. Please leave a comment on this video asking me your question for next time. You can ask me anything about anything. Nothing is too serious. Nothing is too silly. I will answer as many of your questions as I possibly can in the next video. So until the next video, take care, everybody. Hey folks, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and share it and subscribe to this channel if you're not subbed already. And also, please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.